Shush! It's time for The Shelf. Whangarei District Libraries Radio on Beagle Radio. Oh!
Tēnā koutou katoa, no mai whakarongo mai ki The Shelf. He punua pāho mai I ngā whare pukapuka I Whangarei I Beagle Radio 88.1 FM. I pahure koutou I ngā hōtaka me o hautu ki ngā whare pukapuka I YouTube. Hello everyone, welcome to The Shelf, a podcast for Whangarei District Libraries on Beagle Radio 88.1 FM and streaming online at beagleradio.co.nz. To catch up on episodes you might have missed, subscribe to the Whangarei District Libraries YouTube channel. Kia ora, my name is LJ. I am a cataloguing services librarian at Whangarei District Libraries.
And I am Andy. I am an outreach services librarian, also at Whangarei Libraries.
And it's a very special day today.
That's right. It is episode 50. We have done 49 episodes, but today it's number 50.
Yes, and just over 2 years of The Shelf.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's also Banned Books Week. So that runs this year from October 5th to October 11th. So Banned Books Week was launched in 1982 in response to a sudden surge in the number of challenges to books in libraries, bookstores and schools. Held in the last week of September or first week of October, the annual event highlights the value of free and open access to information and brings together the entire book community, librarians, educators, authors, publishers, booksellers and readers of all types, in shared support of the freedom to seek and to express ideas. That information is from bannedbooksweek.org, and this year's theme is Censorship is So 1984, Read for Your Rights.
And because it's Banned Books Week, I just want people to understand the difference between challenged versus banned. A challenge is an attempt to remove or restrict material based upon the objections of a person or group. A book ban is the removal of those materials from circulation, and that is from the ALA, the American Library Association website.
To give some New Zealand context, the ALA has been tracking book bans and challenges in the United States for many years. New Zealand doesn't have as formal of a process as such until recently. We now have a register, and this is just from the Lianza Library Information Association of New Zealand, Aotearoa website. Libraries advocate for freedom to read and freedom of access to information. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, there have been recent and increasing challenges to library content and activities on topics that include sex education and rainbow community issues. Other topics challenged include misinformation about Māori history, child raising manuals supporting physical discipline, and books about vaccination. So that adds some New Zealand context to the conversation, but it is a global issue, and as librarians we support the freedom to read. So last year we did our first, what we're going to try and make annual, Banned Book Club as a shelf crew. We all read Fahrenheit 451 and discussed it, and we got some great feedback on that, and so this year we decided to do it again, and we read Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. So we're going to play a clip of Carly, Andy and I discussing, holding our book club and discussing the book. So if you haven't read Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, you probably want to stop and read it before you go any further, because there will be spoilers.
There are a lot of spoilers, but we had a great discussion, and Octavia E. Butler is not the household name she should be, but I think in the future she will go down with George Orwell, Aldous Huxley, and Margaret Atwood for well-known dystopian authors.
Yeah.
I think she should.
Amazing.
Well, let's start it.
Let's get into it.
This is the Shelf Book Club, Parable of the Sower.
Shush! It's time for The Shelf.
Book Club.
Whangarei District Libraries Radio on Beagle Radio. Oh!
Kia ora koutou. Welcome back to the annual The Shelf Band Book Club. My name is LJ and I'm here with
Carly.
Andy.
Andy. So we'll start today. We read Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. So we'll start with a little bit of a synopsis, some background on the book, why it was banned and challenged, and then we'll get into the discussion. So Octavia Butler was a renowned African-American author who received a MacArthur Genius Grant and Penn West Lifetime Achievement Award for her body of work. Born in Pasadena in 1947, she was raised by her mother and her grandmother. She was the author of several award-winning novels, including Parable of the Sower, 1993, which was a New York Times Notable Book of the Year, and Parable of the Talents, 1995, winner of the Nebula Award for the Best Science Fiction Novel published that year. She was acclaimed for her lean prose, strong protagonists, and social observations and stories that range from the distant past to the far future. Though the MacArthur Grant made life easier in later years, she struggled for decades when her dystopian novels exploring themes of black injustice, global warming, women's rights, and political disparity were, to say the least, not in commercial demand. She passed away on February 24, 2006. At the time of her death, interest in her books was beginning to rise, and in recent years, sales of her books have increased enormously as the issues she addressed in her Afrofuturistic feminist novels and short fiction have only become more relevant. Butler maintained a long-standing relationship with the Huntington Library and bequeathed her papers, including manuscripts, correspondence, school papers, notebooks, and photographs to the library in her will. And that information is taken from a combination of her website and Wikipedia.
Awesome. Thanks, LJ. I'll just read the blurb on the back of the book, and it goes like this. We are coming apart. We're a rope, breaking a strangle strand at a time. America is a place of chaos where violence rules and only the rich and powerful are safe. Lauren Olomina, a young woman with the extraordinary power to feel the pain of others as her own, records everything she sees of this broken world in her journal. Then, one terrible night, everything alters beyond recognition, and Lauren must make her voice heard for the sake of those she loves. Soon, her vision becomes reality, and her dreams of a better way to live gain the power to change humanity forever. All that you touch, all that you change, changes you. And I'll just read a quote from Gloria Steinem, also on the back of the book. If there is one thing scarier than a dystopian novel about the future, it's one written in the past that has already begun to come true. This is what makes Parable of the Sower even more impressive than when it was first published.
The book was published in 94, is that right?
93.
93, okay. Yes, your first sentence there, what I remember, describes things pretty well, more or less. But I think we should discuss why this book has been banned. And, well, the book has been banned in some schools and libraries because it tackles controversial themes like racism, climate change, poverty, and societal collapse. One would think that that's the reason it shouldn't be banned, but
Yeah.
it has.
So yeah, the sentiment, when I was doing a bit of research, the general sentiment seemed to be that these topics were too difficult for children, well, not necessarily children, but young people to comprehend, which I think is ironic considering the protagonist is like, it's not what you'd typically call a young adult novel, it is classed as adult fiction, but the protagonist is 18 years old. So
And I'd say that this is a book that a teenager could easily read. It isn't particularly difficult.
No.
The subjects are difficult. The prose itself, not as much.
I think the constant violence is what might be the most challenging.
Yes, that was hard for me. Well, so you gave a synopsis of the story, of societal collapse in America, but let's describe this world just a little bit more. So, The main character is Lauren Olamina. What is her life like?
Bleak.
Bleak. Well, at the start, they are in this like gated community where like, everything's bleak. There's not many people that have jobs, and outside the gates, there's like all this fire and violence and things happening.
Yeah, I put in my notes they're living in walled communities for safety, and there's also a note about how they can see the stars because they can no longer afford to have all of the city lights on. So
That's
kind
right.
of it's depicted that they are in some kind of populated city.
And the book does not make it a surprise what it is like outside of the walled community. It's very clear in the first few pages of the book what life is like for the people outside the community. The street poor are living the way I recall seeing homeless people when I went to India. You know, people are
Surviving.
barely surviving, yes, starving even.
Yeah, and our character does go out with like a small group of people, like on their bikes to do some, I think, gun training, and then I think their church might even be out. I'm not sure, but
Yes.
yeah, and so she sees that as she cycles past like a naked woman that might have been assaulted or
Yeah.
yeah.
And all of the adults are armed with submachine guns, which is ridiculous. Those are that's military equipment, and they have to ride bikes because few people own a car.
It all connects. There's petrol. There's a few like parallels that I noticed, like in the early chapters of the book when they're doing the world building. In chapter 3, she talks about how one of the astronauts on the latest Mars mission has been killed, and even though nobody died, just the what Lauren notes as being the public sentiment reminded me a little bit of the space mission in April 2025 of this year, like when Gail King and Katie Perry and the all-female crew.
I totally thought of that too. Yeah.
Yeah, even though no one died on that mission, obviously, but the note from Lauren in the book is people here in the neighborhood are saying she, meaning the astronaut that died, she had no business going to Mars anyway. All that money wasted on another crazy space trip when so many people here on Earth can't afford water, food, or shelter. And I felt like that was a really similar discourse that was happening in the general population in April. And yeah, there's a few other things like on page 20 of my copy anyway. Secretaries of astronautics don't have to know much about science, they have to know about politics.
Whoa, yeah.
I hope that was a parallel.
Well, you can see like for the Katy Perry mission in quotes, that was I had that same reaction. It just seemed like a big flaunting like display of wealth for like a 1 minute trip and like barely into space. But I think it's interesting how it becomes space exploration becomes part of Lauren's like religion and like him.
She has a different
that's view. More like it's not that's more of a survival thing or like a how they're gonna,
because she's saying space could be our future.
That's what she says that in the book, right? That where is this Earthseed movement going? And she points to the stars.
But yeah, there's a quote from her father who says, "Bread in circuses. My father says when there's space news on the radio, politicians and big corporations get the bread and we get the circuses." But yeah, they have different views on that.
And in a way that it's a valid argument. Life on Earth is so bleak.
Yeah, and the planet is literally, in this case, mostly destroyed. So that's not like a new thing. We've heard that in the past. Like people think we might have to inhabit
Go to
another
Mars,
to
yeah.
like
Yes.
be able to
Keep it
have
going.
human life.
Yeah. And the other quote on that page is about politicians have been promising to return us to glory, wealth, and order of the 20th century ever since I can remember.
They still
which
do.
certainly, rings true in real life, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well-
looked at spoiler alerts for the Parable of the Talents, the sequel, and this I think was originally supposed to be a trilogy, but it was unfinished.
I was actually, finish your thought, and then I'll give you some trivia on.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That'd be good.
On that.
Good.
Yeah.
The politician in the next book uses the phrase "Make America Great Again"
Oh, God.
as his campaign slogan.
Yeah, which I believe
make it stop.
was heard by Ronald Reagan used that like originally in one of his campaigns, which is where she had taken that from for Parable of the Talents. But yeah, it was originally supposed to be 6 books actually.
Wow.
And so she wrote the first 2, and then she started on the 3rd one, but she struggled with a lot of writer's block, especially towards the end of her life. One of the medications that she was on, the side effect was depression and writer's block as a result. So she published I can't remember what the name of the book, but yeah, she ended up taking a break from that, published another book, which ended up, I'm gonna have to look that up, it's gonna bug me, but ended up being her final book. And so what was originally meant to be a 6-book series, and like I say, she started to write the 3rd one, never came to be because she died not that long after she published her final book.
Can you imagine where they might have ended up in 6 books? They might be on
that's
space.
right. It would have been quite it would have been quite interesting, because I feel that is one thing like about this book. It does really feel like it's setting the stage, like you can tell it's a first book of something, because it does feel like it's setting the stage
World
for
building,
future world building. That's my little bit of trivia.
And I would like to know, though, since this was written in 93, what events in this book have happened? Even though, it could be classed as a science fiction novel, not like, not Star Trek science fiction, more like Mad Max. And
dystopian.
But it's like we were talking earlier. Handmaid's Tale is based on things that actually have happened to women. So what in this book has happened since its writing, or has happened before it?
The other thing that popped out at me was the measles epidemic that is mentioned, because that is happening, and it was declared. I actually did pull it up because I knew I was probably going to talk about it. US measles cases this year hit the highest level since it was declared eliminated in 2000. The phrasing is very strange on this public health website. Surpassed a milestone. I don't know, to me, milestone sounds positive.
Yes.
But in reported measles cases, with now having the most cases since the disease was declared eliminated, and the most cases in more than 3 decades. So, that was interesting, because I think in the book, there's a parallel there, but I think in the book, the thinking in the book is that people can't afford the immunization of the measles immunization, because it everything is being so privatized. Whereas I think in our reality, it's more to do with medical skepticism and those things like post-COVID. So,
but the privatization is definitely true in the U.S. That was our reality.
Yeah.
Still is.
100%. That was, and like the other things that we were talking before, that you can see the parallels. But Margaret Atwood and Octavia Butler both talked about how, their works are not prophetic, but more just that they are studiers of history humanity and like patterns of history.
Yeah.
And so while, you know, some people might go, "Ooh,
Whoa, she
spooky,"
predicted, yeah.
and all
Yeah.
this prediction, it was actually to do with you know, how much you know, their research and their understanding of history and human nature things.
Yeah.
Another thing, this is based on reality in the book, but the influence of drugs in society.
Pyro.
Pyro, yes, the book, spoilers, but the book has this drug called pyro that makes people who are using it really love fire. They set fires, and it gives them pleasure. Well, although pyro does not exist, I have seen people in the real world who are on drugs, and they are behaving a bit like zombies. I think fentanyl is one thing that causes that, and some people on methamphetamine really are not. They have lost a lot of their ability to reason the way people ought to be able to do.
Yeah.
I believe both. I think methamphetamine existed before this book was written, but if you've ever been to a place with a lot of drug users, say a neighborhood, it does feel like you're entering another world where the rules don't apply, and you're almost, in a comedy horror movie in some sick way.
I think another aspect of that is like drugs as escapism. I mean, you see often higher rates of drug use, you know, in poverty-stricken communities or houseless communities, because it's it's an escape outlet when your reality is so horrific. People will turn to all kinds of things to cope. I mean, I think that goes for you know, there's a sort of a broad spectrum that can apply. You know, a lot of people have, you know, a vice. Some are more destructive than others, but there is a reality that people especially when you see no light at the end of the tunnel or an out,
and that relates to the other themes of the book, class and denial. There's that character Joanne really personifies denial in a lot of ways.
And Joanna's her friend in the compound.
That's right.
Is the one, and she got, so the context is
that's her
they
escape.
decide to move right to one of the company towns. So like towns that are are being bought out by companies. And Joanne's part of the Garfield family who decide to move out of the community to one of these company towns.
And that's one thing that the book is based on that actually did happen in the U.S. There were company towns, and when you live there, you're indebted to the company, and you're not really a free person anymore.
No, which is a lot of Lauren's resistance to the idea, even though Joanne's saying, you know, things could get better. The president's idea of getting people back to work kind of links to this, but it also reminds me of things that are happening in the world currently. So his plan for putting people back to work, he hopes to get laws changed, suspend overly restrictive, in quotation marks, minimum wage, environmental and worker protection laws for those employers willing to take on homeless employees and provide them with training and adequate room and board. So that's earlier in the book, and I feel that sort of sets the stage for this company town kind of concept. Because like you say, you're indebted to.
And that exists in a lot of places. I mean, I taught English in South Korea, and that actually there were a lot of great moments, but at the same time, your visa is tied to a company at their mercy, and so is your home and board. So
Yeah.
You know, you're in a very precarious situation.
Yeah.
This in the book, these company towns are, of course, much worse. I believe,
Yeah.
more like the ones from history.
Yeah. And speaking of going back to your question of things that have already happened in history, we hear that slavery is something that's been
Yes.
happening in this world, is continuing. And I thought it was interesting because I spoke to you, Andy, at the time, where they were saying that I don't know if we talked about the hyper empathetic. Is that what we call them? Hyper
Sharers.
the sharers, how they're more likely the slave owners want them. And I didn't get that at first until Andy said, like, because obviously they are feeling each other's pain, and it's like
Group punishment works.
group punishment. Yeah. So
And that's another aspect of this world, is that slavery is quite common and tolerated. The character Zara was bought by a man who, well, he would have called her one of his wives, but she really is a sex slave. And even to the extent where she was an adult who did not know how to read, because it was not in the interest of her owner / husband. And when Laura brings this up in the first third of the book, it's quite casual. She seems quite used to this idea that slavery is tolerated and legal. And we talked about sharing, or this hyper empathy. I think we'll back up and just say that Lauren, yes. Lauren says in the beginning of the book that she is able to feel other people's pain to the extent where she could even bleed.
Yeah, and that's linked to with her mother's drug use during pregnancy.
Yes, and that's a major aspect of her character. And I just want to say too, she is quite a smart person for being someone who had to suffer drug damage at birth. But it is a fact that even some people with fetal alcohol are not, their behavior isn't affected, or their learning isn't affected. You know, it's not always the same for everybody. I'd say her intellect has not been affected. She's quite smart. Her behavior, she mentions getting into fights a lot as a child and being a bit combative. Her narration doesn't strike me, though, as being confrontational. In fact, I think she's quite diplomatic.
she is. I always think that was the main thing that kind of surprised me about this book, is that it's written in journal format, and it's quite like factual. This happened. And we know that she is like, it didn't come across that she was expressing a lot of empathy in terms of, you know, literal empathy, not just pain empathy. She's not flowery with her words. She's not very overly descriptive. And so I was like, oh, what is she feeling about all these things she sees? But in her actions, she is helping people. And she is trying to, you know, find a better build a community. So she is like empathetic. But in the way she writes, it kind of confused me at first, because it's quite, you know,
to the point.
To the point. And
her empathy, her hyper empathy, is a source of shame for her. She doesn't want to tell anybody about it until,
she hides it.
Spoilers, towards the second half of the book. Then she's finally telling other people about it, not just us. But I wrote in my notes that this hyper empathy that she feels, or sharing, seems to be the one fantasy element of the book, because there are other sharers, not just her. And I think this alludes to a problem that we have in American society. I know I live here now, but it's hard to let go.
But also, you give a good perspective on this particular book, I think. You have lived in you are American by birth, and you live there, so
yes,
valuable,
But empathy was seen as a weakness by a lot of people. I feel like part of my schooling was more like that terrible dojo owner and the Karate Kid.
We do have a bit of
mercies
that
for the
in
weak.
New Zealand. We have a bit of this man up attitude
Yes.
kind of thing, and we've definitely, not to make it political, but Jacinda Ardern was sort of, her thing was compassion and
Yes.
kindness, and her criticisms from some people were the same things, like she was being, too compassionate, too weak in
not
their eyes.
realistic. Yeah.
But I
But
kind
it could be a strength.
definitely. I think it's a strength, but I believe that it has been ingrained partially in our American communities and even in our schooling that too much empathy is your weakness. Because if I am to succeed in school or succeed in life, someone else must fail.
Yeah.
We were very competitive in discussion classes where we'd be talking about a book like this, but it would be different. There was very little respect amongst the students. People would be raising their hands, and the teacher would give them a point, and then another kid's point would be discounted, and it's like, okay, so one gets a point, the other doesn't. I had one teacher that was pretty ruthless like that.
No space for differing viewpoints in a way.
Differing viewpoints, or even a shy kid.
Yeah.
They're testing your charisma.
Yeah.
But I think we're fiercely individualistic, which is also a theme in this book. Zara is an individualist. At least she is in the beginning of the book. I think she changes. But I think the reason is because of everything she's been through.
Yeah.
So,
she can only trust herself.
Yeah, so the book isn't moralizing her too much. She's very compassionately. The book shows you what she's been through, but also the reasons why she might be kind of an individual, like, I want my freedom and I don't care about others.
Yeah. I want to just circle back to what you said, Carly, about how, like, she seems very factual and stuff, and I wonder if it's, we haven't really talked about Earthseed yet, which is the religion that she's essentially created. Her father is a Baptist minister, but she has her own set of beliefs. But she says later in the book, in response to another character that she meets on her travels, Earthseed deals with ongoing reality, not with supernatural authority figures. Worship is no good without action. With action, it's only useful if it steadies you, focuses your efforts, eases your mind. So I thought maybe that's like a possible explanation to why she seemed really factual, but like you said, she's out there doing stuff, and so like that is her way, and I guess guided by this religion that she's created.
She's already living.
Living her values in a way. She talks about with that, like early in the book, like God as the concept of change, which means that God can be shaped.
The beginning of each chapter, like a journal entry, has a date and then a quote that is part of the book.
I don't think we mentioned that it starts in July of 2024.
Yes.
Which is why it has partially why it's got a lot of interest at the moment. Because people want to read it and look at the parallels. And I think it ends. Does it end in 2026? Hang on, I'm looking for the last journal entry. October 2027. So it spans a period of about 3 years.
Covers a lot of ground, and in a way, this is an epic. A lot changes,
which is impressive for 311 pages.
Yeah, it's not that long. So a lot of the quotes, a lot of Lauren's quotes at the beginning of her journal entries are they're kind of reiterating a point about Earthseed. She says, "To everything there is a season." So this emphasis on change, and adaptability, and it's a Bible reference, isn't it?
Parable of the Sower.
Is that Ecclesiastes?
No, it's Mark, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. Mark 4 verses 3 to 41.
Okay.
Did you want me to read the original Parable of the Sower?
Yes, please.
Good.
So, hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow, and it came to pass, as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. And other fell on good ground, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased, and brought forth some 30, and some 60, and some 100. And he said unto them, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was alone, they that were about him with the 12 asked him the parable. And he said unto them, Unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God, but unto them that are without all these things are done in parables, that seeing they may see and not perceive, and hearing they may hear and not understand, lest at any time they should be converted, and their sins should be forgiven them. And he said unto them, Know ye not this parable? And how then will ye know all parables? The sower soweth the word. And these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown, but when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately, and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. And these are they likewise which are sown on stony ground, who when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution ariseth for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. And these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of other things entering in, choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. And these are they which are sown on good ground, such as they hear the word, and receive it, and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100.
Yeah. So the word.
A lot going on there that also is in the book about finding followers for a movement.
That seems to be like, if it was a 6-part series, like this is focused on her building a congregation, a community. In a way.
And the theme of
spreading
seeds,
the word.
carrying seeds as a form of insurance. Not insurance, but a way to survive.
Yeah, I mean, the book ends with a little portion of the parable of the sower, like the part about just that first part that I read about the sower going out to sow the seeds, which is, essentially what she's doing in the book. And I think, in chapter 7, talks about how plants don't sit in one place and wait to be wiped out. Their seeds travel. Which I thought was another interesting component of it. I feel like it's one of those things, like, if you looked at the book at face value and, like, yes, she, was praised about, like, economic prose and stuff like that. And so, like, if you look at it and it's quite simple language, it's easy to read, like we've talked about. But I feel like as you unpack, like, each of these concepts, like, you realise, like, just how much depth there is to the story. Like, she obviously really seems reductive to say she really thought about what she was writing, but like, there's obviously a lot of thought put into it with the crafting. I would say that's probably a good word for it, like the actual crafting of the story that she was telling. I thought that was
and one big thing related to these seeds is she makes bread out of acorns.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like I'll just, my memory from riding my bike on the on the footpath in America is you're just rumbling over these acorns. they're everywhere. This is why we have squirrels. But then Lauren names her community Acorn. Isn't that one of the last statements? But I guess it's a thing that humans do not consume, but we probably could.
Well, I think the community is an important part of this novel, and an important part of, like, making a future for them that is sustainable. And I think that's something we're going to have to do in the future, is like focus and build community.
You see that those sort of themes, like it's not
Yeah.
things in real life, but you do see those sentiments like emerging, more and more, like with the community gardens and the public library.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
Absolutely.
And the use of the
Definitely.
public library. In those things.
I guess another thing I want to talk about, society in this book has obviously broken down. Cost of living is unaffordable and education is unattainable. Lauren, I think she has a strong sense of community because she attempts to educate pretty much everyone she encounters. She's a very strong character, but
I think she was influenced by her father in that respect.
Yes.
She probably grew up seeing her father being somewhat of a leader for a small community, but she's like changing and adapting to. Yeah.
She's also like cautious too, I think, in the way. I mean, we talked before how she's almost like diplomatic. I feel like she's very aware of, if you overload people with too much of a new concept, they're going to shut down. Like when Harry, which is one of the characters that she met, like when she eventually has to flee her home, and so she meets, they sort of collect this band of people along the way, but Harry is one of the people that she meets, and he really wants to read some of her journal, like wants to read some of Earthseed, and she's really cautious about doing that because she doesn't want to like he's already kind of what's the word, not resistant is not quite the word. Skeptical. Thank you. I was like, there's a word that's not coming. He's already sort of a skeptic, so she's like, she just shows him a whole lot of what she
got to ease him into it.
Yeah, and he eventually, but he's still he's skeptical, but he's demanding to know what it is that she's writing, and so the little bit that she lets him read, which is, all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change, which I thought was interesting because that's the first thing that Octavia introduces us to about Earthseed as well earlier in the book. Is just that concept of God being change. Like it just starts there, and then we learn more about Earthseed. So it was an interesting parallel, but that's but it's only like I say, she wants, like talking about how she wants to educate and stuff like that, but she's mindful of the way she's going about it, I think. Yeah.
Well, what fascinates me about her is the influence her father has over her, because he's right about a lot of things, such as the company towns. He's wrong about a lot, too. And isn't he a Donner supporter, the Mr. Austerity? But anyway, I think the book shows you a very realistic father-daughter or son relationship.
Yeah, I think it illustrates like that generational difference as well, because it's like, it's one of those things too where it's like, then it's like two things can be true, right? Like they're not necessarily both completely right or completely wrong about this, but they're speaking from their personal experiences, because he has lived in this current reality, and he also lived in what was before, whereas Lauren's only lived in this reality that they're living in. And so I feel like a lot of the things that her dad are wrong about are more just like they're unrealistic in this new reality. He's still thinking about the before times, before things got this bad. So like he's going back to this kind of when things were reasonable and salvageable and stuff like that, and like wants that back. And she's going, well, like get in the here and now with me, except she would never say it like that, but to simplify, she's going, get in the here and now with me, like this is not that stuff's gone, like this is our we have to work within the framework that we have now. And I think that's where it's a conflict, I suppose, but it is also like a generational difference. And
definitely.
I think, probably a relatable difference that for a lot of us that like try to have political conversations with our parents, or you know, and things that we agree on and don't agree on. You're coming from a totally different generational perspective, even though there's obviously overlap.
And
in
it's
the
probably
present.
really hard to let that go, the past go, when it was better, when it was a better time for them. I mean,
for them,
But part of the second half of the book is largely has to do with grief, because of some things that happen in the book, and I'll say that this is up there with one of the most horrifying books I've ever read. With
it's engaging, but it's hard. I had to take a break from.
It's like reading a book about a war, and these are the refugees. But grief is a big theme in the book, because it triggers us to think of the past, and in this case, it's a past that will never come back. And also from the father's point of view, or anyone from the older generation, even in this world now, it's for this past that can never come back.
Yeah, whereas Lauren's focus is on the rebirth. Like, that part, she's like, that past is gone, and now we have to, you know. So it's like really bleak, but then on the flip side, it's like hopeful. Yeah. Even though it doesn't feel hopeful in the way that I think that we would typically think of hope in normally in a narrative you think hopeful as in like there's a happy ending and like everything gets fixed and it's all of that, but it's more hope in the, you know, in the very like bleak.
It's a seed of hope.
Yeah, it's a seed of hope. It's a bleak and dark time, and it doesn't take away from the, you know, like people die in this book, like people a lot like bad things happen.
Nobody is safe in this book.
Yeah, nobody's safe, but in terms of like as they create their collective of the community, things could be different in the future, which I think is the theme in a lot of social movements, and certainly in a lot of the, like in the 60s, a lot of the civil rights actions that were happening in the 60s and things like that in America. Like a lot of people that were involved with those knew that they were working for a future that they would probably never see. It's like about that generational thinking, and I think that's
planting the seed for the tree. You will not feel the shade of.
It all links back together, and you know, I mean, and I'm guessing Octavia Butler, as a black woman that was born and grew up in America, like I imagine that that knowledge of those movements would have influenced this kind of theme in her work. I think
you've just brought up a good point, a thing that we have not really touched on too much, but Octavia Butler was an African American woman, experienced racism, American style, and in this gated community they're in, or in the world that they're in, nobody is safe. Children are not safe from the carnage that's portrayed in the book. But same with a very racist society, such as a Jim Crow society. Even children are not seen as safe or innocent by the people who want to harm them. But you said something I loved about rebirth, which is a huge theme in the book, which goes along with fire. You've got these guys doing pyro, burning things down and loving every minute of it. But also fire can bring comfort, just the same as the last band book.
Food.
We were at Fahrenheit 451, but
go back and listen to last year.
but the metaphor of the phoenix burning and then being reborn is used in this book at some point. I did not write the page number down, but it is mentioned. And rebirth too, as baptism is in the beginning of the book, and also making sure to mention that water is insanely expensive. And if this is outside Los Angeles, I've never been there, but I think this is an incredibly dry part of California.
Yeah, well, they talk about the fires, and obviously they had fires in LA just
that's right.
Last year, So, well, there's another parallel. So we're coming towards the end of our time that we've got to record. So I just wanted to read something from page 97, which kind of it encapsulates some of the stuff that we're dealing with in reality now, but I also think that like humanity throughout time, which we've already discussed, that has heavily influenced her work. So it's from Earthseed, which is written by Lauren, the protagonist, but it's the beginning of chapter 10. So, when apparent stability disintegrates as it must, God is change. People tend to give in to fear and depression, to need and greed. When no influence is strong enough to unify people, they divide. They struggle one against one, group against group, for survival, position, power. They remember old hates and generate new ones. They create chaos and nurture it. They kill and kill and kill until they are exhausted and destroyed, until they are conquered by outside forces, or until one of them becomes a leader most will follow, or a tyrant most fear. Which was very interesting.
Very, yeah.
And also as well, there's something in her archive. She's got some notes on writing. I found this through her website and through, I mentioned earlier that she donated a lot of her stuff to the Huntington Library. But they have a page from her, one of her notes on writing notebooks. It's handwritten from 1988, so before this book was written. And it just says, I shall be a best-selling writer. After Imago, each of my books will be on the bestseller lists of LAT, NYT, PW, WP, etc. My novels will go on to the above lists, whether publishers push them hard or not, whether I'm paid a high advance or not, whether I ever win another award or not. This is my life. I write best-selling novels. My novels go on to the bestseller lists on or shortly after publication. My novels each travel up to the top of the bestseller list, and they reach the top and they stay on top for months, at least 2. Each of my novels does this. So be it, see to it. I will find the way to do this. So be it, see to it. My books will be read by millions of people. I will buy a beautiful home in an excellent neighborhood. I will send poor black youngsters to can't really read the writing, Clarion or other writers' workshops. I will help poor black youngsters broaden their horizons. I will help poor black youngsters go to college. I will get the best of healthcare for my mother and myself. I will hire a car whenever I want or need to. I will travel whenever and wherever in the world that I choose. My books will be read by millions of people. So be it, see to it.
That's brilliant.
Nice.
Yeah, especially because she didn't really get the recognition, some obviously, in her lifetime. She won a lot of awards, but she's considered a pioneer of the science fiction genre, and her work is now taught in over 200 colleges and universities nationwide, and her books are reaching millions of people now. Like I say, this Parable of the Sower that we've talked about has got increasing popularity, combination of the times we're living in and the fact that it's set in 2024. But yes, I just thought that'd be a neat thing.
It's brilliant.
To read.
And if I can plug one of her books, I read Kindred when I was at uni, and it's a great book.
Kindred's really good.
Great example of the banality of evil. Also, it's not really so obviously a sci-fi novel. It's a bit of history and literary fiction. The
time travel aspect.
Yeah, the time travel, it's only part of the story. There's so much more.
Yeah. So, you can request both those books. We don't have Parable of the Talents yet, but I have a copy which I haven't read because I wanted to wait. Yeah. Because I didn't want to get them confused. But I don't think we have a copy of Parable of the Talents, but to be honest, I'll probably donate my copy after I'm done with it because I don't often reread, although, I don't know, like I say, I feel like Parable of the Sower, there's like so much more each time you look at it.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us
Thank you.
on
Thank you.
Annual book club. And you can place a request for Parable of the Sower at the library, and we'll see you next time.
Ka kite.
Kakite.
You are listening to Beagle Radio 88.1 FM, Whangarei, and online at beagleradio.co.nz.
So thank you for listening to another BAM Book Club. Hope to do it every year and another episode of The Shelf. And you can request Parable of the Sower or check out any banned book to celebrate Banned Books Week. Silver Festival, upcoming events, is still going on Wednesday 1st of October to Tuesday 14th of October. So you can have a look on our website, the Whangarei District Libraries website, to see all the events that are coming up at the library. And also a reminder, if you haven't yet voted in the local election, it closes at 12 o'clock noon this Saturday, 11th of October. There is a ballot box at the Whangarei Central Library, but you can look on the Whangarei District Council website for a full list of ballot box locations.
Yes, please vote.
Yeah. So that's all from us this time on the shelf, and we will see you at the library.
Yes, we will see you there.
Ka kite.
Ka kite.